Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For today's session, I'm going to hand it over to Shivani because she's going to be the moderator. So, Shivani, over to you.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's conversation on avoiding family disputes, the right way to plan your finances. I am Shivani, a solopreneur in the space of leadership coaching and facilitation, and I believe in making the money conversation mainstream. We have two amazing speakers with us today, Ankit and Kunal. I'd like to take a moment to introduce the two of them to all of you. Ankit is the co-founder and CEO at Wealthup. He graduated as an engineer from BITS Pilani, but found his true passion in personal finance. Now, while working as an investment banker in Swiss bank in New York, Ankit started investing his own money and helping his friends and family make better financial decisions. And after seeing them stuck with a bad financial product, achieving financial freedom himself, he started Wealth Up to help others take control of their money and build wealth confidently. Today, Ankit is focused on making investments simple and guiding people towards financial independence. Welcome, Ankit.
Hi, Shivani. Thank you. Thank you for
Hello,
inviting.
thank you. Our second speaker is Kunal, who's the founder on a mission with 14 years of experience spanning engineering and social impact. He's now focused on using technology to build something impactful through Kustodian. He recognizes the need for simplified settlement planning and believes everyone deserves access to clear, reliable guidance. Kunal's vision is to help people take control of their pre life and end of life settlement and planning, securing peace of mind for themselves and their families. Welcome, Kunal.
Thank you, Shivani, for the wonderful introduction.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you both here today. Money has always been spoken about topic around me. I grew up around money conversations, having been given an opportunity to learn how to spend money, how to manage my own finances. But over the years, having spoken to a lot of people, even my age, I've realized that it's not the case for everybody. So I'm glad to have the two of you to have this conversation today. So Kunal, tell me about your story of custodian life and why you do what you do.
Sure. So, I come from a Marwadi Gujarati background, and I was in the tech, so primarily fintech space. So, a lot of tech and money is what I did for first 12 years of my career. During this time, I had a personal tragedy, so lost a very dear friend, and then what followed, right? What happened with his family, right? It took them almost 4 years to get back, everything that he had invested, taken insurance of everything that he had done in life, right? And that's when I realized that if something happens to me, my family would also be in the similar situation, right? When I talk to colleagues around, right, they all had the same situation that they are investing, right? Because you download an app, UPI, KYC, the money is in, right? But when things go wrong, families don't know where to begin, right? We are not planned that way. So that's where something has to be done in the space around closures, which is where Custodian.life was born. And today we are trying to help people understand why this is required and then help them actually how basically to do something around that.
It's beautiful. And I remember in your intro, you also, we spoke about how you believe that everybody needs to have access to clear and reliable information. So thank you. So, Ankit, what about you? What's your story?
Again, I'm also from a Bania background. And when I was doing my engineering, in second year, I found my passion in finance. I had no idea what I'll actually be doing. But I was like, okay, I want to do something in finance. And another thing was, okay, I'll work for 5 years and then I want to start something of my own. Again, no idea of what I'll be doing. But being Bania, yes, I have to start something of my own. And actually, investment banking was very cool and talked about. And in movies, you hear, okay, this person is an investment banker. So it's okay. I also wanted to be an investment banker. Was interested in finance, and by God's grace, I was able to get a job in investment banking. And after working with them, working with Swiss Bank for more than 6 years, I was like, okay, now it's a good time. That what I thought initially, in 5 years time, I'll start something of my own. So next year it's time. I came back to India from New York, and then I was exploring what to do. And then that I was my friends and family kept asking me about what do, and how to select this financial product and insurance and whatnot. And then I saw the kind of mistakes people were making, people who were like very well educated with access to all the information and whatnot, but still, people were making those mistakes. So like, okay, there is a real need to solve that problem, the decision making part of it. And that is how investment Wealth Hub was born.
Beautiful. I love how passionate the two of you are about this space and followed. And I hear from your mainstream career and have started something in the journey of entrepreneurship. A lot of people want to do it. Let's talk about the theme today, which is essentially making avoiding family disputes the right way to plan your finances. So we are here to talk about the importance of protecting your wealth, and I think it's even in money conversations, this is something that people hesitate to even think about, thinking, oh no, why should I talk about this? What if like, why should I anticipate bad things happening to me, right? So let's start with some common misconceptions. So Kunal, there's this common belief that estate planning is just for the super wealthy. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Who really needs to think about this?
So I think I've mentioned it a few times in some of my posts as well, right? And that's a very big misconception, and a lot of people have it, right? Right, that I don't have enough to pass on, right? What they realize is whatever they have, right? It could be smaller amount, right? As long as they think that whatever they have, it could be maybe 10,000 rupees, right? If you think that that money your family deserves, right? That money shouldn't sit idle somewhere because it won't be used by government, it won't be used by anyone else, it would just lie unclaimed over there, right? As long as you think whatever you have earned in your life, whatever you have invested in your life, right, you want your family to get access to that wealth, right? It might be small, it might be big, right? If that's the case, then you should definitely plan for it, otherwise all of that would get stuck. So it's not about how wealthy it should be, it's about whether whatever you have, do you think is it enough or is it worth it for the family to deserve that wealth? If yes, then definitely you should do.
Hmm. So I'm wondering who will answer that question saying no, nobody deserves it. So that means it is for everybody. So that's the short answer, everyone, to everyone who's
Yes.
listening to us. Having worked with Wealthup, Ankit, I know that this particular segment is not part of wealth management generally. So what prompted you to work with Custodian.life to include these conversations?
Sure. So, Shani, I'll break this question into two parts. Okay. First of all, why this service, and then I'll come to why custodian. So, see, I have said this repeatedly that we at Wealth, we are not building something for next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? What we are building for is like 50 plus years. Most of our clients are generally in like 25, 30 years kind of age bracket, and in 50 odd years they will be in a place wherein they will be looking at how to transfer their assets, and hopefully a lot of it, not just 10,000 or 10 lakh for that matter. I hope it isn't cross, and they will be looking at transferring this to next their next generation, because I see how hard people are working and being so disciplined in investing and whatnot. So at that point of time, this service will be needed. But why now? So what happened with us, even though we were focusing on people who were like relatively younger, we started seeing that a lot of our clients started bringing their parents to our to our platform and to our service. And then that is when we realized, okay, this we need to do this relatively sooner. Okay, because this is something that is needed, sooner the better. And honestly, like when people are very young, 25, 30, 35, they don't really think about will creation at that point of time, even though Kunal has repeatedly said it is an important thing to do, and sooner the better with most financial habits and most good habits. So but really, when the parents of our clients started coming in, we were like, okay, we need to do this sooner, because again, we are trying to offer a more holistic personal finance management offering. So that is why we were like, okay, we need to offer will creation as a service. And we got I got connected to Kunal, and we were having a few conversation, and then I also saw how passionate he is. And when he also explained a few things, which I honestly, because I hadn't really looked deeper into will creation, I hadn't, understood all the nuances there. And Kunal explained to me a lot of things, and I saw how passionate he is and what he's willing towards and how he's helping people. Also, the kind of the stories that people are sharing, his clients that are sharing on LinkedIn, how he has helped them. That prompted us, to work with Custodian Life.
That's wonderful. So I see Kunal living his motto of making information reliable and clear and easy for access. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I love seeing collaborations come to place. Uh, so Kunal, you I read that about 70% of investments in India are in property and gold. So it's no surprise that two-thirds of civil disputes are property related. In fact, one of them, I was just part of one of them. I just got out 2 weeks ago. It's the first one I've seen closing. But yet nobody wants to talk about estate planning or wealth management, or thinking ahead beyond, like Ankit was saying, beyond a short term. Why do you think that is?
So the taboo, right? Finance is a taboo, right? Death is a taboo, right? And no one wants to talk. And when they both come together, succession is basically talking about money and death together, right? And yes, 70% is in gold as well as real estate. But the India is changing. If you go today's 30s or 40s, like people whom Ankit is helping investing, a lot of there is also in digital kind of assets, right? Mutual funds, equity. You have seen you see the numbers and how these things are growing, right? What people don't realize is, okay, I've told he should get this, I told this they should get this, right? They don't realize something goes wrong. The law works differently, right? The law has its own course, right? It will tell how and everyone would get it, right? It's based on your religion, it's based on your gender, it's not based on how you have invested, right? So based on your religion and gender, it would be determined who should get it, unless you have specifically put instructions, which is where people fault. And what also happens is, when until someone is there, right, they are basically the binding person across their families, right? When this binding force has gone, everyone thinks this person loved me more, right? So I should get this, I should get this, I should get this. That's where the first indication of disputes start, that everything should come to me, everything come, because no one had a clear instruction who should get what, right? And that's the first seed of this thing, and then it just evolves into layers of complexity. There is trauma of losing your very dear person, no matter what your relation was. We are not No one expects someone to pass like that, right? Even if they are 70s, no one expects. So imagine someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s, right, passing like that. And we hear so many stories like that, which is where the trauma is of the next level. In that, people are not even thinking clearly, right? On top of that, you add the complexities of our legal hassles that are there. On top of that, you had all the red tape that is there. On top of that, you add issues like your Aadhaar card name not matching with your PAN card, right? It just takes it to the next level, which is where I think most of the disputes and all. And then again, these are civil cases, right? In terms of court, right? Civil cases take a lesser priority to criminal cases, right? So it takes decades before these cases can resolve. Congratulations that you were able to get out in decent time, like in during your lifetime. But in a lot of cases, people end their entire life in getting the cases resolved, which is where we want to, like, why don't we spend a week just to get this right, so that your families don't have to go through it.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and I think it's also the beauty of a country being so diverse. So, like you said, it's based on so many different things, and perhaps, like you said, religion. It's a matter as different aspects come together, and it's everybody needs to be given a fair chance, and in giving everybody a chance, the timing kind of keeps expanding. So, I get what you're saying.
You
I
know,
also heard, yes, yes.
Shivani, why people don't talk about it and stuff. Similar is the case with insurance. Okay, so be it health insurance is something that people still understand. Ki, theek hai, we know time to time we have seen that people have faced health challenges and they had to be admitted, no matter how healthy you are. But we have seen COVID. It's a very recent memory for all of us. Life insurance, on the other hand, is very similar to estate planning. From the perspective of thought process, death and money coming together, and people are not generally not comfortable thinking about it or talking about it. Why do I need a health insurance? I'm just X years old, right? And the assumption is ki, uh, 60 is sort of a retirement age. Just thought process. 60 is a retirement age, and I'm going to die after 60. Okay, so matlab, this is just something that we have observed. Most people, widely, it's like, okay, people do die after 60, and the age, the mortality age, so the life expectancy in India is going up. Like, we are at what, 74 and 78, right, for men and women. That's the average. And what if you are, unfortunately, you are the unlucky one, right? Preparing for it, that's people something that people are not comfortable with. Life insurance is still, people are getting accustomed to that, with so many content that is being created and whatnot. Will creation, as Kunal was pointing out earlier, and you also asked the question, right? People think, okay, I need to have X amount of money, that is when I'll be doing will creation. So that is still not something that people have understood. And I hope with the content that we are creating, the conversations we are having, that explains it to people why it is important.
Beautiful. You know, that I was actually wondering that these are all the different stories people are telling themselves or they're listening to. How do we really make this change this? You know, bring it to main. And I think what you just said, we're changing it one conversation at a time, all of us together. So thank you for doing that. You know, when both of you were speaking about will creation, about insurance, there are these two terms that usually misunderstood, sometimes used in place of one another, which is the nominee and the successor. Right. And when I was speaking to Kunal last month, and I think Ankit as well has been telling me that these are two different words, Shivani. So why don't you tell us what is the difference between the two?
Right. Again, that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we are fighting. I think we have T-shirts that says nominee is not equal to successor. Just that one line, so that people will start having that conversation, right? Nominee, by definition, is only guardian of your asset, right? It's their responsibility to pass down to whoever your successor is, right? And successor can be determined only in two ways, right? Either you have a will that tells whom you want to pass, right? That is a very beautiful thing, because there you can even pass it down to friends, right? That I want to do charity, I want to give it to my friends, I want my friends to go on a vacation, right? It's endless possibilities over there, right? Or you can do it for your families, right? Alternatively, if you do not have a will in place, which is where the other thing comes in, that the law will determine who should get it where, right, and how much they should get it, right? Plus all of that would be entangled, right? Now what happens is, as you said, India is a diverse country, right? All our every like just between three of us, we will have different equations within our families, right? You would want to do something differently for your parents, you would like to do something differently for your spouse. I have a kid, I'll want to do something differently for him, right? And that's where but law can't be created for Kunal, for Ankit, for Shivani, right? Law has to be something that works in a general scenario for everyone, which is where the trouble starts, which is where because I didn't plan it, or because I didn't bother to plan it, I didn't have the time to plan it, right? Then it will be according to law on how will, which is where the court will decide who my successor is. Just to give an example, if I'm a Hindu married man, right? My first level of successors would be my mother, my spouse, and my kids, with equal sharing holding. Right now, no matter who is the nominee in which of my assets, right, it doesn't matter, right? If I have my mutual funds for my wife, and if I have my house for my parents, right, doesn't matter. My house will also be equally divided between them. My mutual funds would also be equally divided between them, which is where trouble starts brewing up, right? Which is where a lot of discontent starts brewing up, which is where a lot of how do we do this, right, starts brewing up. So nominee is just the guardian of your asset. It's their responsibility to pass down to successor. Even if they are themselves successor, they will have to prove it, which can only be done through court or legal documents. And some of these documents, like, just wanted to, because the topic has just started, there's a certificate called succession certificate, right? Which is required if your asset size is decently above certain limit, right? 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs. I'm not talking about crores also, right? That certificate takes roughly 8 to 10 months and costs around 2 lakh rupees in most districts around the country, right? And it's not required if you have a will. So that's the difference between a nominee and a successor. I hope I was able to answer.
Yes, thank you so much. No, so what I'm hearing is that it's not enough to have a nominee alone. Defining your successors is also important if you really want to maintain that different percentages you want to give. Otherwise, it will be decided by the law that is defined differently for different people.
Actually,
Do
I
you want
also
to
assumed
add? Yes.
that Nominee is the successor, and Kunal was the one who pointed out that there is a difference, and this is how it works. So that was a learning opportunity for me as well.
Yes. Welcome, Medha. Is there something you want to add to
So,
this?
yeah, so we're getting a lot of questions as well, and I wanted to. We will take them up at the end, but because the question was relevant to the conversation right now, I thought I'll just bring it up right now. So, Prateek has a question that we speak about will creation, and you just spoke about why that's so important. So, how do you safeguard your wills and ensure that they're executed by a trusted authority? So, I think if you can talk to us a little bit more in detail about wills and will creation, that would be really helpful. And I'll keep popping in, if the questions are relevant. Otherwise, we'll take them at the end.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Meda. Shall I take that question first?
Yes, please.
Okay, right. So yeah, so one thing that is, the around the law around the will, right? Yes, the laws in India around creation of will are very simple, right? There's no complexity of, all the taboo around that. You need a big shot lawyer, you need this and all of that. No, it's not required. You can have a simple will as well, right? So that's one another misconception that I want to bust. But another factor that comes to will is it cannot be a digital will, right? You can buy entire companies by doing your e-sign, but you cannot create a will digitally, right? It has to be on paper. It has to be signed on ink, or whether you can put a fingerprint, but it has to be paper and ink, right? That is the simple law around will, right? And you need two witnesses who would sign and authorize, saying, okay, this was done in front of us, right? That's the most common type of will that gets created. Safe storage for that, I would advise in majority cases, right? In about 80-90% of the cases, you can just have the original key kept in a bank locker, right? They are already insured, they are already very well taken care of, weather protected and all. You can just cover it and laminate it nicely and put it in a bank locker. Alternatively, if you see a chance, right, where the either the wealth is above a certain size, let's say that's 20 cr, 50 cr and above we are talking about, or the way you are distributing your wealth, right? You see that tomorrow the family might not be happy about it and they might contest it, right? That's where we would also recommend getting your will registered, right? Which is an additional process after the will is created. So you have a very valid will, which is where you can get it registered. You just need to find out your nearest sub registrar office, take an appointment, go there. A couple of hours it will take. But they will basically, it's like government keeping a record of your will, right? So they will take a timestamp, they will take a photo, you will have to sign in front of them, and they will also have a copy of it, right? Which is where if someone contests saying this is not the last will, or this is not a valid will, or the statements were changed, you have a copy that is sitting with the government office. But that's another layer of security, which again, I don't think everyone needs it, right? But yeah, if you want to have additional security, that is how you could do it. However, just keeping your normal will secure, you can also take printouts of it and share between different friends, saying, okay, if something happens, you have a copy. The original is sitting at a locker. So those are additional things. You can do a video recording when you are signing, right? Those are additional steps that can be taken care of. But again, depends on how you are passing. If I want to pass all my wealth to my friend, of course, my family would say something is wrong. Maybe the friends messed it up, right? Which is where I need to be double sure. But if I'm anyway passing it to my parents, my spouse, my kids, right, and something to my friends, then I think there is very little to no chance of contesting, which is where my will doesn't need a registration, but someone else might need it. I think that should answer that.
Right. So just paraphrasing what you just shared was there are two kinds of wills is what I'm hearing. One is it's enough to have it, it's important to have it on paper, no digital wills, and needs to be signed by the person creating the will as well as two different witnesses. And that much is usually enough for 80-90% of people is what I'm hearing. However, there is an option for you to get the will registered as well in case you foresee any disputes or any possibility of it not being followed. Do you think the understanding is right?
Perfect. Perfect
Okay.
spot.
Perfect. So that means there are two kinds of, these are the two kinds of wills. Are there any more any more different
It's just
types?
a layer on top of it. So your will is just the normal will. For securing it, you are doing video recording, or you are handwriting it, right? Instead of taking a printout and signing it, you can just write it down. It's called a holographic will. You can name it differently. You can get it notarized, right? You can get it registered, right? It's just building more layers on top of it as security. But at the core, it's the same will, right? Alternatively, if you are, you are like part of a listed company, or your shares are like, your property has a lot of these things, or the way you want to pass on these assets is not one shot, right? You want to do, like, for example, you have people in your family who are disabled and you want to support them. You can't pass it all your assets together in that case, right? You want to do an yearly separate, which is where another concept of estate planning comes in. That's called a trust, right? It's a lot more complex than creating a will, and hence a bit more expensive, as well as time taking, and needs annual maintenance. But less than 5% or 2% of our countrymen really need a trust. That's where that's another way to do estate planning. But otherwise, a will is sufficient in most cases.
Hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. Anything you'd like to add to this, Ankit?
No, well, as far as the will creation is concerned, Kunal is the expert. But yeah, if once you have identified that there is a need for it, talk to someone uh, who can help you, and take the action. I mean, instead of just procrastinating it. If you see there can be any issues that may be there with the whatever amount of money, savings, investments, wealth, howsoever you call it, if you have been able to accumulate that, just have something in place, howsoever basic it may be, as Kunal was pointing out, the level of security and that is needed. Based on that, you should do that.
Correct. I'll just go a step ahead and add that, even though it's our bread and butter, you can even take a piece of paper right now, write it down. This is what I want to give to these people, and get two signatures from your friends or neighbors and around, and that is also a valid will. You can do it for free as well. You can download a template from Google. You can do it as well, right? It's just that you want it much secured. You want clauses that takes care of, if this happens, what to do. If this happens, what to do. How it will execute. That's when you need expert advice, and that's I'm not saying don't get it. Do definitely get an expert advice, but at least have something ready today. Like, right during this call itself, take a piece of paper, write it down, and get it signed. Then get an expert help, create a very well structured this thing. But don't be without that security even for the next 1 hour.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It reminds me of this quote, like, don't wait for the perfect time to do everything perfectly, just do it right now. Um, so, I'm hoping that our listeners now are going, oh, I think you all sold me that I need to create a will and I definitely should have it. What are some of the first steps they can take? And you did just say that they could take a paper about it right now, but say somebody wants to go about it in a manner which is more structured. Where do they even begin?
So I think my co-founder Harsh might have already put it in comments, a link where you could book a call with us. Right over the call, we will take you much in deep insights about will creation, or the different parts of the will, how to think about that. Right, but just book a call with us, and in the meanwhile, create an Excel sheet or create a notepad where you just writing down, okay, what all assets do you have, what all liabilities do you have, right, and whom would you like to pass this on, right? So have that
Call
basic
with
data.
us, right? Over the call, we will take you much in deep insight.
I'm not sure how the echo is happening, but basically, take, like, create that data, like put start getting that data all together. That's one. And second, in the meanwhile, book a call with us. We'll definitely get you in much deeper and help you create one if you need professional help level of a will.
Okay, wonderful. Uh, Ankit, before we bring this conversation to a close, I'd like to ask you, what are some common mistakes you see people making when it comes to managing their succession plan?
The biggest one is not planning one. Most of, as I was mentioning earlier, most of my clients, they are relatively young, and they have not got. So it's also an evolution generally, okay, where we are as a society. It's like money itself, or is kind of a relatively new concept. because it's like just 20-25 years back is when the upper middle class has been created in this country. People who have some meaningful savings, right? And particularly the young ones are like, yeah, I've just started, accumulating. And these, a lot of my clients who are very young, they have savings and investments that are above 20 lakhs, 50 lakhs, few of them above 1 crore, that are invested via us, but they're still like, ha, okay, we'll do it. Okay, so that journey, right? Okay, so you just started investing. So there are people who are in their 30s and they have not started investing. Money is lying in their bank account. So it's a journey, how people are taking that, and so it is also an evolution. People, will come to this wealth creation, but the sooner you get there, it's actually better. So talking to someone, if you think that whatever you have accumulated, whatever little or a lot that you've accumulated, it makes a difference in the people who you would like to pass it on to. Okay, just thinking about and doing it, and no, not procrastinating it more. And howsoever basic it is, I mean, even if you don't want to get it registered, or if you are thinking, hey, that will be an additional cost that is associated and stuff, start with the most basic thing. You pointed out a quote for on perfection. Another one that I can recall is, perfection is the enemy of execution.
Yeah.
Don't think about perfection, just execute in whatsoever basic form it is. And Kunal, actually, I'll reach out to you after this call, so that you mentioned that there are templates that are available online. I would really like it, if you can make a very simple, maybe a one page or two page or howsoever you think is appropriate. If you can have that one document that is available, that template that is available, maybe a PDF or a Word file, whatever you think is appropriate, um, or an Excel, whatever you think. Maybe we can just have that as a resource. Happy to share it with our clients as well, because I have seen clients who are listing down all their assets, on paper. So Shivani knows about that, and there are also people who are putting it in an Excel key, just key, okay, this is there and that is there, and with very basic information. Howsoever you think, okay, so if you're talking about, say, key, I have investment in stocks or mutual fund, generally, key, the basic details, okay, what platform I'm using, and broadly speaking, as of this date, what is the value, or so, something like that. If you can share that, I think that will be very helpful for people, because I know people are comfortable spending 5,000, 10,000 in an evening, just going out, but spending I don't know, so something like that on will creation is something that's a wastage of money. So okay, let's try to get them started with no cost and very minimal effort. And yeah.
Sure. We do have a template, right? And we often share it freely out for people to, get their investments and all of that listed down in a structured way, right? Which is like the first step, that you have it all structured. Now just put it on paper saying, okay, this, I want to pass on to this, right? The first step starts with putting all together structure. So I'll in fact, post the video. We'll probably put that in the comments, and I'll share it with you as well, so you can pass it down to your clients. And so Excel template, so they can just fill it. That's the first step, where it also helps you remember, okay, do I have a liability, do I have a loan, do I have credit cards that needs to be closed, have I borrowed money from a friend, or have I loaned it to a friend, which is more even required. Someone will have to pay it back, right? Or versus, if you have made riskier bets, like, you have done cryptocurrencies, you have bought digital gold, which a lot of people don't share it with family. Like, they're like, I put only 1% of my portfolio in this high risk bets, but if they work, they would potentially grow a lot more. But it could be crypto, it could be digital gold, it could be digital FDs, right? There's so many options available right now,
Yeah.
right? That this template would help them put all together. Right now, whether you want to share it with your family today or not, it's a choice, right? Even for will, that goes true. Creation of a will doesn't mean that you have to share it with your family today. I've created a will. My family knows I have a will, right? I've told them in a sealed envelope where it is, right? And like, when the time comes, you open it, but they don't know the contents of it, right? Which is where, like, a lot of people get this misconception. Oh, I create, I have to tell, and then it will bring complexities in my equations, which is that something that is not even required. You just create it, seal it, put it in a safe place, and let some people know that this is where it is, right? And how to access it. That's all that's required.
I think this is also an important point because for people to know, okay, it's not going to. I mean, if you don't want to disclose the content, you don't need to. So that is also something that people should know. I mean, if it is something that can be controversial among the family members, or can create any issues or conflicts. Um, so yeah.
Correct. Just to add one more layer to that, not just the content. In fact, while creation of the will as well, right? Will doesn't need value of any of those assets, right? So if you're putting that my bank account, all things shall go to this person, or my so and so mutual fund should go to this. Where you don't need to put values around that. In fact, values are not even required because values change every day. You won't be changing your will every day, right? So values are not captured in the will anyways. So it's just about where everything is, what everything is, right? So your will anyway doesn't have any values. That adds one layer, saying, okay, there is an anonymity of what's my net worth, because a lot of people are not comfortable sharing it with their own family as well, right? And then the second layer is, even after that you don't wish to share, it's obviously a choice. You uh, need to share it.
It's beautiful that you brought out these two big elements, which is one is confidentiality, which a lot of people are worried about, and it causing disputes even before it's before required. So it definitely don't need to disclose the contents. And second is the amount. You're absolutely right. Putting that into the will sometimes is a little bit people are uncomfortable with it. We'll work on that some other day, but you don't need to disclose is also the other aspect. It'll be and one thing that you already spoke about it, but we've been talking since we started speaking about your assets that you want to give to your successors, but your liabilities also go to them. So creating your will, from what I heard from Kunal and having spoken to him before, those are also listed down, because otherwise someone might just come and say, hey, they borrowed money from you, and if you are somebody who's not aware, then that's an issue. So your liabilities are also listed, and it's also told who is going to take care of it, because there are people lining up to take assets, but they wouldn't be lining up to take up liabilities. So
This is like
that's
a
there.
very important point, Shivani, because we have actually in real life we have seen it so many times, right? When say someone passes away and say X amount of money was there, say in assets or say even for say a life insurance policy, right? Whatever may the value of that policy may be, when once that money comes to your account, the whoever the successor is, it's like he randomly people will start coming like, hey, I lent this money to this person and that money to that person. There was no paperwork, and I gave only on goodwill and stuff. That is one thing, and the other thing is which is I think is outside the offering of a will, is like people may also start coming and asking ki, hey, I'm in desperate need of X amount of money, I'll return it to you. Of course, you know me, right? So that is another thing which I don't know if will can protect that, but that is also something that we have seen and heard of quite often, when something like this happens. So that is also important, like if it can be listed down in the will, okay, about what my liabilities are, and I mean, if it can be done, these are the only liabilities I have. I have not taken any loan, or no one else can come and claim, okay, that this person lent me 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 5 crore, or whatever the number is, right? So that just protects your loved ones. So
Right. Just to add on top of it, sorry, Shivani, we are just having that conversation directly, right? Will could also be used on to pass on instructions, right? So, for example, if I'm the breadwinner of my family and I'm not just managing my money, but I'm managing family money as well, right? How to invest, where to invest, everyone's like, if I'm savvy with finances, and that usually happens in a lot of Indian families where one person takes care of figuring out where the money should go, right? I could also pass down instructions saying, okay, if something happens to me, this is my advisor, right? You should consult this person, right? And they would guide you how to do it, right? So because what happens is insurance is usually a huge chunk of money that comes in together, right? Your assets all dilute together, so a lot of liquidity comes in together in one shot, right? And as Ankit pointed out, right, all of these scenarios also come up along with so many other trouble, right? And in this traumatic phase, right, because like this money might probably come in like 3 to 6 months, especially insurances usually come in the first 3 to 6 months, whereas the trauma lasts months, if not years, before people could figure out, okay, what I need to do next in life, right? Which is where expert advisory could be really useful, right? And which is where you can put down instructions for the family members also. For this particular thing, reach out to this. For this particular thing, reach out to this friend, right? You could put all those kind of instructions where, all the resources that I am using right now, right, I can put down in my will as an instruction to my family, that for this kind of matter, consult this person, and that builds next level of trust, and they also would avoid falling in such traps. So that's another thing that can be added in will as instructions, suggestions, recommendations, not of course as an mandatory execution, but definitely very useful for family in desperate situations.
Yeah, that's beautiful that you added that, because it's a resource that you have cultivated, and your family should not be left in a place where they don't know where to go to access those resources. So it's I'm glad that you mentioned that it's not just assets and liabilities, but also resources that you perhaps have found useful can be given to for them to use or not. Like you said, it's not mandatory, but they have access to it. Well, thank you so much. Both of you have been great. So it'll be a miss, something that you spoke of. The coach in me will remiss if I don't mention it. You said it's a journey. We need to make money mainstream. People are hesitant to even invest, and then bringing in the conversation of protecting your investments is a journey on its own. And I'm so glad the two of you are on this journey together. It seems like there's a lot of complementary aspects that you bring. I'd like to see if Medha wants to come in and ask any questions that the audience had
Yeah,
before
sure.
we. Yes.
So we spoke a lot about will and will creation, but there's a question saying that after a parent's death, how do you manage distribution of finances and property in the absence of a will? So I think it's great that now a lot of us have this awareness that we need a will, but of course, from a previous generation, that didn't exist, right? So how do you, I guess, distribute property in the absence of a will?
Right. I won't sugarcoat this, right? But it's gonna be very painful, no matter how it is, right? I hope there are no disputes between the siblings, and whether, of course, because what also happens in Indian culture, their daughters and sons are treated differently in a lot of families, right? But as per the law, even married daughters have equal right to parents' properties, right? And siblings also, when once they are in the age group of 40s and 50s, right? They have their own families, and there is very less coordination in a lot of this scenario, especially people living in tier 1 cities, and they are all nuclear families, so called, right, which is where disputes start in the first place. So I just hope there are no disputes. If there are disputes, I hope God helps you get things move faster, because then there will be courts getting involved, legal frameworks getting involved, figuring out who gets what. Even in case there is no dispute, right, what you would need is, if the asset size are decent, right, you will need to get certificates from the relative authorities. There is a legal headship certificate which would be helpful for if your assets are somewhere below 10 lakhs or below 5 lakhs, right? A legal headship certificate should help you get it done. If the assets are more than that, you would probably need to get a succession certificate, which can be, you could take help from an expert. We also help some of our clients, but you'll need to get a lawyer, or some expert who can help you get that, which would be available from the district court or high court, where the person who has passed away, they used to live, right, around in that particular district. But that certificate is state by state. It takes roughly 8 to 10 months in most states. You will have to pay stamp duty on the assets, right? So you'll have to pay government a duty on the money you are basically passing on or doing transfer, for which you are basically creating a succession certificate, which is where the cost goes up to 1.8, 1.2 lakhs in most cases, right? Because you'll have to pay the government tax around that. The second thing, even this succession certificate, or even this legal headship certificate, or no matter what you get, it will not tell who should get what. It will tell who holds how much percentage in the net asset, right? So let's say there is a real estate, there is mutual funds, there is shares, there is a vehicle, there is gold jewelry, right? Most common types of assets, right? And let's say there are two children and one wife left behind by this. All three of them, and I'm assuming that this is Hindu by religion and male who has passed away. This differs by religion, this differs by gender, right? So then there would be three equal shareholders in each of that, right? So if there is three vehicles also, all of them would be equal shareholders in each one of them, right? That becomes another challenge, which you will have to pass on by, you could either give a power of attorney, or you could do a, NOC saying, okay, I'm giving my part in that particular asset, you take it, you give your part away in this asset, and I'll take it. So that kind of mutual understanding is required between whoever the successor are left. If that's not there, then the court will have to come and help them settle this out. But yeah, it's not going to, it's not something that would get solved in a few weeks. Forget about dates. Probably it will take months, and in most cases, at least a couple of years before all of this gets sorted out. So sorry to hear about that situation, but in the absence of will, that is where people end up. So
So get a will. That's the moral of the story. That's
like
important.
if you have family members who are in different states, in different countries, they all will have to come down and put their signatures, right? If you have family members that you are not in touch with, if you are family members that you have a fight with, right, all of that would come into picture, right? If you invested in a property, let's say a lot of Indians do it, right, that it is on their sibling's name or it is on their parents' name, doesn't matter who put the money in, whose name is on the asset will determine who should get it, right? So all of these complexities start coming in because there is no paperwork that was done.
Okay.
So
Thanks for that detailed explanation, Kunal. The next one is we again in relation to will creation. Does a will need re-registration if it is updated every few years?
if you have done the first will registered, right, it's highly recommended. Again, it's not mandatory. It's highly recommended that every time you want to make a change or you want to create a new will, you should get it registered again, so that the government also has an updated copy. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to prove, because if a copy is there with the government, right, it's much easier to prove, okay, this is the final will. Whereas you come up with a paper saying, okay, no, this was written later. So what happens with the will is the last and final copy of the will is the valid will, right? Anything that you have done before that becomes invalid, right? But also when disputes arise, right, which one was the last, that will have to be proved, right? And something that has been registered with the government, it's much easier to prove. So if you have not registered ever, no worries, it's much easier to prove. But if you have done one registration, always do a re-registration. Highly recommended whenever you want to make a change or whenever you want to create another will.
Okay. The next question. So this is not a question, it's a comment, but I wanted a clarification on this. So again, Prateek is saying that there are quite a few well-known startups that provide e-will facilities which are endorsed by the country's largest banks. So because you mentioned that a will has to be paper and ink, I just want to understand, what is an e-will and how is it different, and if you can just explain that.
There's nothing called e-will, right? What Mr. Pratik was saying is they have created platforms where you can pass on your data digitally, right? You can download an app, you can go to the website, right? You could fill those details. Even for us, we are taking data in an Excel, right? Post that, they will create a will and send you a physical copy. So whatever you have created digitally, right, you will have to either, so even if they don't send you a hard copy, they will send you a PDF which you will have to take a printout and sign it. If you haven't taken that printout and signed it, it's not a will. There is nothing called e-will in our country. All these platforms and all these banks, in fact, most banks also provide this service, right? They will make it easier for you to type it out instead of writing it down, but the final copy has to be a physical thing, which will only be valid in court. You can't take out a PDF saying I had written that. It's not valid.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Also, this was actually the first question that came in. It isn't completely to do with the topic that we had in mind, but I think Kunal and Ankit, both of you can maybe share your insight on this. So, Sudha is asking that how can newlyweds manage finances to avoid future disputes? I think this is more in Ankit's bucket than in Kunal. So, maybe Ankit, you want to, answer it.
Sure. So, first of all, you need to think and be honest about it. How do you look at finance? Do you look at it individually, or do you look at it, together? If you want to keep it separate, you can again have, sort of prenuptial agreements and stuff, wherein the assets are protected, or you just create a will around that. Okay, this is what Kunal was saying. if I am a married man, and if I want, my whatever my assets are, it shouldn't go to my wife. Okay, just having a will protects that, right? And same goes with the wife, right? Same goes with the lady. If she wants to protect her assets, okay, it should go to her parents, and maybe to siblings, or to the child if they have. I mean, you mentioned they're newly married, so probably they don't have a child. But if they want to have it structured like that, again, a will solves that problem. Now, that is one aspect of it. What happens in the case of a demise, right? But if you want to look at it before the demise, is completely your decision how you want to look at it. We have clients, couples who look at it together. There are couples who look at it separately. I look at it separately. Okay, but when it comes to actually managing expenses, or in terms of working towards common goals, okay, that is how we agree upon. Okay, so this is the goal that is there, this is the amount of money that we'll be needing. Okay, so how is it, and how much is that, okay, that both of us can contribute. Okay, but it is a completely decision, that's on your own. It's completely it depends on you. So, and I hope that I answer both the question, before demise, after demise. I hope that answers.
I think the before demise is done, but like let's say that someone is about to get married or just got married, and I know because I have talked to a lot of such people, right? Mostly I've talked to a lot of women who will call me and say, okay, no, I so far maybe my father has been managing things and now I'm getting married, so I just feel like it's still not clear, to me as a woman. Okay, like what is how do I start the conversation? What is it that I can do? So I think if you can give a specific example and talk about what that conversation looks like, what are the aspects of it, that might be helpful.
Okay, so a few questions before that. Okay, so you got recently married and you had X amount of money, savings, and everything. Your dad was managing it beforehand. Okay, you got married, and now what is the exact question? Is like, who should be managing it? Ideally, you should be doing it. Okay, get an advisor, get an expert who can guide you. And financially speaking, I mean, you should be independent. So you should have the uh, I mean, if you so okay with managing finances, it's like I repeatedly say this, you need to have time, interest, and skill set to manage your money. If any one of these is missing, there is no harm in reaching out to someone. Now, this someone can be your dad, can be your sibling, can be your husband, or can be an external expert. Okay, now we, of course, when given it's the money matter, this person should be reliable, someone who's actually working in your interest. We by default, of course, assume that our relatives, our family, our dad, our siblings, or our husband is going to be working in our own interest. If you have any concerns, because okay, the goodwill is there, the good intention is there, but if skill set is not there or anything is missing, get help of an expert. You can do vet that expert. Anyone can claim that they are an expert, but it's your responsibility to find that right person. Okay, like you did for finding your husband or your spouse. After that, take the decision. Okay, how this is going to be managed, who is going to take the decision. But you need to be aware of where your money is. First thing, you need to be aware even before you go ahead and create that will and stuff. You need to know, right? And once you have that, during the before demise, when you are alive, so that you can manage it then. How to bring that conversation? Well, okay, once you have gotten married, at some point this conversation will come up. Okay, how is it that you're managing money, and if we should merge it together or not. Be clear, be open, and try to, I mean, this can be sensitive. Try to introduce it in small dosage. If you think it can offend the other person, again, it's like many times, in Hindu families, in Indian Hindu families, like okay, the man generally manages the assets, and after the marriage, if the woman doesn't want to do it, okay, it may offend the person, the um husband. So you need to be aware, okay, how to handle that situation, being it slowly. Okay, my dad has been doing it, so he's doing this. And of course, based on your relation, do you actually want your husband to manage it or not? If not, you also need to think about, if your dad is managing it, at some point you also need to seek, when is it that you'll be prepared, or what alternative you have, who will be managing it going forward. Because, okay, this is a long answer, but because many times we have seen the investment philosophy of the previous generation is different from ours. they are more conservative. There were certain asset classes they were favoring more, and it actually worked in their time, right? But things have evolved so much. The kind of access, the kind of products that exist in the market, they may or may not be aware. Tech savviness is something also that is a limitation for our many times for our previous generation. So explore those. And I can't give one answer that will cover everyone, but this should guide broadly how you can think about it. And sooner you bring, if you can't take care of those decisions yourself, it's better to bring an expert who can take care of this for you.
Ankit's answers are way too long and it's always very convoluted. I will just summarize for whoever it is. First step, be clear about what your assets are and who you want should manage it, and be confident about it, right? Like it's your money, it's your assets. Second, have an open conversation with your husband and introduce it in a way which is easy to digest. So essentially, maybe you can start with shared goals and then like develop that conversation further. And third is get expert advice if you feel that the people in your life are either not an expert or don't align with your investing philosophy. I think that covers it.
Yes.
Can I add something for the after demise section as well, especially
Yeah.
because the case that you mentioned, right, where father was managing the money, and now is the question, right? As per the succession law of not just Hindu but most of the religion in the country, right? After marriage, for a let's talk for a Hindu married woman, right? If something happens to her, the first level of people who would get it is the spouse and kids. But if the spouse and kids are not there, it's their in-laws who will get their money. So in the case that you mentioned where father was managing everything, right, and let's say post marriage, if both the spouse and something happens together, right, then it won't be the father who will be the getting money. It would be the in-laws of this lady who would get access to all her wealth, right, which is where again between both the in-laws there would be family disputes. So without presence of a will, right, the law takes, of course, its own course. If you have a will, you could choose how much you want to do it for your father. In fact, siblings are not in most of succession plans. Siblings don't get anything. But a lot of us have a special relation with our siblings and would want to do something for them as well as their kids, right? Which law, like their number or their priority in that list is so behind that they usually won't get anything, which is where succession planning is also super important at any life event. So if you're getting married, if you had a kid, if you lost a family member, right, any major life changes is where succession planning becomes an important conversation to create a will. If you have a will, updating that whenever a life changing event comes, someone joins your life or someone leaves your life, definitely get a will.
Yeah. Thanks,
I
Kunal,
think
for
from
adding that.
all of you shared, so from everything all of you have been sharing since we started the conversation, I think the first conversation that you need to have is with yourself. Where do you want to invest? And before you can even have a conversation with anybody else or an expert, that self-awareness is really important. It doesn't matter the gender, but that I think that's what I'm hearing from all of you. Not said this, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I had we had another LinkedIn live a while back, and that was like so impactful for me that like I had a conversation with my dad about this as well, because I just feel like it doesn't matter who is getting what. That's why the session was called avoiding family disputes, because unfortunately no everything is okay until something like this happens. And no matter how much I love my family, my siblings, I don't want a dispute to come up. So it's not about what I am going to get. It's about, firstly, like Kunal said in the very beginning, it's not unclaimed. So it's not like it's just lying there and we don't have access to it. And second is that it doesn't cause unnecessary disputes, later on. So I think from that perspective, definitely do everyone reach out to Kunal. He's super helpful. Custodian Life has already helped so many people with that. And if you are looking to invest and you're not sure about what financial products are right for you, then do reach out to Ankit on LinkedIn as well. We're already at 1 hour now, so I just wanted to like quickly wrap up. So Shivani, over to you, and then I think that's it on the questions front as well. So yeah.
Well, if there are more questions, we can have more conversations which are more specific to that. But thank you so much to the two of you for bringing this very important conversation on protecting the wealth that you have so that it's not lying unclaimed, like Medha said, and the right people that you want to have access to it have access. And like Medha said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out the two of them. They're wonderful. Any last words, Kunal, Ankit, before we
Um, I just had one last word, right? Since Ankit is there, right? I would encourage everyone to reach out an expert like him that would help you grow your money, right? Invest it right, take it to places, right? So have so much money, which is where the experts like him would come help you increase it, grow it, invest it, and then let us know, and we will help you ensure that it remains protected. So that's what is required, a good balance of both of them. So that's all I would want to say to all the audience that we have today.
Yeah, thanks, Kunal.
wonderful.
I would like to add, no matter how small the number is, what you think, okay, it's a very small number, just the most basic one. We'll actually, share the template with everyone, and I'll also see to it, ki how is it that we can make it available on our website as well, so that it's very easy for people to get access to it. And however basic it is, you don't need to incur any cost if you're thinking about, ki that may be an unnecessary expense. First of all, it's not unnecessary, but if you think it's okay, uh, because we we do try to save wherever we can. So if you think this is not an area where you want to spend, it's fine. Just use that template and just make a list, so that that will give you a lot of clarity yourself. And at a later point of time, when you want to create a will, when you think is the right time for us, and according to us, it's sooner the better. It's today or yesterday was the best time. So have that, and we will make it available to all of our clients soon.
Wonderful.
So
Thank you so much, both of you. Yes. Tell.
thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Shivani, for hosting this and moderating the session. And thank you, Fanal, for your time. I get to learn about these things every time I feel something or the other, the new comes up every time I talk to you. So thanks for your time.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Ankit.
so
Thank
much,
you
everyone.
so much.
And thank you for
We
everyone for joining in and listening in. As Shivani pointed out, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us. As as the question may be relevant, we'll be happy to help you.